I walked into the promotion meeting with my head held high. 6 years at Apex Dynamics. 3 major successful projects. Consistent performance reviews that called me exceptional. I deserved this VP position. The conference room was already occupied. My boss, Graham, sat at the head of the table. My colleagues Donovan and Beatrice flanked him, wearing identical smirks that should have warned me. "Have a seat, Adrian," Graham said, his voice cold. I sat confused. This was supposed to be my promotion review. "It was," Graham replied. He slid a thick dossier across the table. "Until we reviewed this evidence." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were fabricated performance reports, falsified project records, and doctored emails that made it look like I'd stolen credit for other people's work. "This is fake," I whispered. "We have witnesses," Beatrice said smoothly. "Multiple colleagues who confirm you've been taking credit for their contributions." "The promotion is denied," Graham announced. "Furthermore, you're being placed on a performance improvement plan effective immediately." I looked around the room. They were destroying me, and I couldn't do anything about it. I returned to my desk in shock. The office felt different. Colder. People avoided my eyes. Donovan appeared at my cubicle with a sympathetic expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, I'm sorry about what happened there. If you need any help getting back on track, just let me know." His condescension was palpable. Beatrice stopped by my desk an hour later. "Graham thinks it's best if I take over the Reynolds account. You need to focus on the basics right now. Get your performance up to standard." The Reynolds account. My account. The client I'd nurtured for 2 years. I watched her walk away with my work, feeling the walls closing in. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open. The resignation letter was half-written. "Dear Graham, I regret to inform you." My phone rang. Blocked number. I almost didn't answer. "Adrian," a familiar voice said. "Don't do anything hasty." My grandfather. I hadn't heard from him in months. "How did you? We need to talk. Now." My grandfather, Theodore Vaughn, met me at his downtown office at midnight. The building was silent, just security in the lobby. Theodore's office occupied the entire top floor. "Sit," he commanded. I sat. "Apex Dynamics," he said without preamble. "Do you know who owns it?" "Some investment group. Redwood Holdings, I think." Redwood Holdings is a subsidiary of Vaughn Enterprises, which is wholly owned by the foundation, our family's holding company. My mouth fell open. "I placed you at Apex anonymously 5 years ago," Theodore continued, "as a test, to see if you could succeed on your own merit, without the family name. I was doing that. And now you're being sabotaged, which means you've succeeded enough to threaten mediocre men. Graham and his cronies fear your competence." He leaned forward. "I'm not offering you a rescue. I'm offering you a weapon. Don't quit. Conquer." I stared at my grandfather. "The boardroom is a jungle, Adrian," he said. "It's time you started hunting." I deleted my resignation letter. The next morning, I arrived at work with a new perspective. When Beatrice reassigned 3 more of my projects, I smiled and thanked her. "You're right. I should focus on fundamentals." She looked surprised, suspicious even, but she couldn't argue with compliance. Donovan handed me a stack of expense reports to review, grunt work usually done by interns. "This will be good practice for attention to detail," he said. "Absolutely," I replied. "I appreciate the opportunity to improve." They expected broken. I gave them docile. And while they celebrated my apparent defeat, I was planning. My first move was subtle. I requested access to the company's archived server from IT. "It's for my performance review documentation," I explained. "I want to compile evidence of my past work." They approved it without question. But I wasn't looking at my past work. I was looking at theirs. My grandfather had given me something precious. Hidden administrative credentials that let me access parts of the server most employees couldn't see, including deleted files. I spent 3 nights digging through the digital graveyard of Apex Dynamics. Recovered emails, old project files, deleted documents. The original, unedited files of my work were all there. Proof that the dossier Graham presented was fabricated. But I found something else. A deleted chat log between Donovan and Graham from 3 weeks before my promotion meeting. Most of it was corrupted, but one fragment remained. Once Adrian is gone, the division is ours to run as we. The message was cut off, but it was enough. They'd planned this. It wasn't about my performance. It was about removing competition. I saved everything to an encrypted drive. Evidence for later. But I needed more. I needed to understand their endgame. I needed help. Someone I could trust. The IT department had one analyst I'd mentored when he first started. Oliver Pierce. Sharp, principled, and discreet. I found him in the server room on a Tuesday afternoon. Oliver, I need your help with something sensitive. He looked up from his work. What kind of sensitive? I told him everything. About the fabricated dossier, the sabotage, the deleted files I'd found. Oliver's face grew dark with anger. That's corporate fraud. They could be prosecuted. But first I need proof. All the proof. And I need your help to get it. Oliver was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. I'm in. What do you need? Graham has a hidden folder on the server. It's encrypted. Called Project Phoenix. Can you access it? Oliver's eyes widened. I've seen that folder. I never tried to open it because it's above my clearance. But. He smiled grimly. Give me 48 hours. Oliver worked his magic. 2 days later, we met in a coffee shop 3 blocks from the office. He slid a USB drive across the table. Project Phoenix. You're not going to like what's in there. I didn't. I read through it that night in my apartment, my anger growing with each page. Project Phoenix was Graham's master plan. Fire all the old guard, employees who'd been with the company for more than 5 years. Slash benefits and retirement contributions. Cut research and development. Inflate short-term profits to make Apex look attractive for acquisition. Then sell the company for a massive bonus. The plan included a list of employees to be phased out. 27 names. Mine was at the top. But there were others. Oliver's name was there. Janet from accounting, who'd worked there for 12 years. Peter from operations, who had 3 kids in college. Graham was planning to destroy dozens of lives for personal profit. I played my part perfectly. In my weekly PIP meetings, I nodded meekly to every criticism. Agreed with every suggestion for improvement. To Graham, Donovan, and Beatrice I appeared defeated. Broken. They grew more confident. More sloppy. Beatrice was the worst. At a department meeting, she stood up and announced she'd landed the Reynolds account. The client I'd nurtured for 2 years. The client was impressed by my fresh approach, she said, smiling at me. Sometimes you need someone with vision to close big deals. The Reynolds account. I knew that account inside and out. I knew what the client wanted, what they needed, what they'd been promised. And I knew Beatrice couldn't deliver it. She'd stolen my work, but hadn't bothered to understand it. She was standing on quicksand and didn't know it. I kept my face neutral and said nothing. Let her have the rope to hang herself. I knew the Reynolds proposal Beatrice presented would fail. I'd seen her draft. Oliver had retrieved it from the shared server. It was full of promises the company couldn't keep and specifications the client had explicitly rejected. But I didn't interfere. I prepared a perfect counterproposal. One that addressed all the client's concerns and offered realistic solutions. I saved it in a folder on my desktop. And waited. It took 3 days. The email from Reynolds came to Graham's inbox, but Oliver made sure I saw it too. We are deeply disappointed by the proposal presented by Ms. Beatrice Chun. It demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of our needs, and includes several inaccuracies regarding our requirements. We are reconsidering our partnership with Apex Dynamics. Graham forwarded the email to Beatrice with 3 words. Fix this. Now. I watched her panic from across the office. The first domino was falling. Graham called an emergency meeting. Beatrice and Donovan were there, both looking stressed. Graham was furious. How did this happen? Beatrice, you assured me Reynolds was a done deal. Beatrice looked at me. Adrian was the previous account manager. The proposal was based on her data. She must have given me incorrect information. Donovan nodded eagerly. That makes sense. This has her fingerprints all over it. I'd been waiting for this. I opened my laptop calmly. Actually, I was completely removed from the Reynolds account 3 weeks ago. At your request, Beatrice. I pulled up time-stamped emails. You'll see here that I attempted to provide updated client information, but you refused it. You said you wanted to start fresh. Graham looked at the emails. Then at Beatrice. Is this true? Beatrice's face turned red. I thought. Fix it, Graham said coldly. Or you're done. The crack in their alliance was beautiful to watch. While they scrambled with Reynolds, Oliver and I dug deeper. We focused on the financials, following the money trails through Apex's systems. What we found was damning. Invoices approved by Donovan for consulting services from companies that didn't exist. Each invoice was between $15,000 and $20,000. Small enough to avoid scrutiny. Large enough to add up. Over 2 years, Donovan had approved nearly $500,000 in fake payments. The money went to a shell company called Midas Consulting. Oliver traced Midas through corporate filings. It was registered to an address that didn't exist, but its bank account was very real. And the statements we retrieved showed regular deposits into a personal account. Graham's personal account. He's been embezzling from his own company, Oliver said. Our company, I corrected. He just doesn't know it yet. A junior accountant named Vera approached me in the parking lot one evening. She looked terrified. Adrian, can we talk? Privately. We sat in my car. Vera was shaking. I know what's happening to you. And I know why. I've been helping them. Helping them how? Donovan made me approve those consulting invoices. The ones for Midas. He said it was legitimate expense processing, but I looked into it. The companies don't exist. I told him I was uncomfortable, and She stopped. He what? He threatened me. Said if I didn't cooperate, he'd fire me and make sure I never worked in accounting again. I have student loans. I can't afford to lose this job. I took her hand. You're not going to lose anything. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She nodded, wiping her eyes. I have everything saved. All the invoices, all the approvals, all the emails where he pressured me. She handed me a USB drive. It's all there. With evidence of embezzlement secured, I decided to force their hand. Using my hidden authority through the foundation, I convinced a major client, Horizon Technologies, to redirect their contract to a competitor. I made it look like a catastrophic oversight by Graham's team. The email went out on a Friday afternoon. After careful consideration, Horizon Technologies has decided to move forward with Vertex solutions for our infrastructure needs. We appreciate Apex Dynamics' time. Graham's response echoed through the office. What the hell happened? Nobody had an answer. The Horizon account was worth $3 million annually. Losing it was a disaster. By Monday morning, the board of directors had scheduled an emergency quarterly review. The email came from the board chair himself. Given recent performance concerns, we're conducting a comprehensive review of the division's operations. All relevant parties are required to attend. Graham's string of failures was catching up to him. And they didn't know the worst was yet to come. Graham, Donovan, and Beatrice went into crisis mode. They worked late every night, fabricating reports to explain away the losses. I watched them through the conference room glass, arguing with each other. Their alliance was fracturing under pressure. One night, I stayed deliberately late, working in my cubicle with my door open. Their voices carried from Graham's office. This is your fault. Donovan hissed at Beatrice. If you hadn't screwed up Reynolds so badly, we wouldn't be under review. My fault? You're the one who lost Horizon. That wasn't me. That was. Both of you shut up, Graham snapped. We need a scapegoat. Someone to blame for all of this. There was a pause. Then Beatrice's voice, quiet and venomous. Adrian. She's already on a PIP, Graham said slowly. We just need to build the narrative that she sabotaged these accounts out of spite. I recorded every word on my phone. Evidence for the collection. Graham called me into his office 3 days before the quarterly review. His demeanor was completely different. Almost friendly. "Adrian, I wanted to talk to you about your situation." "My PIP? Yes. I've been reviewing your recent work, and I think we may have been too harsh. You're trying to improve." He slid a document across the desk. "I'm prepared to take you off the PIP. Give you a promotion. Associate director. Good salary bump." I looked at the paper. It wasn't a promotion offer. It was a liability waiver. "There's just one small thing. We need to close out some documentation issues around the Reynolds and Horizon accounts. Legal stuff. If you could sign here, acknowledging some procedural errors on your part." He was asking me to be the scapegoat, to take the fall for their failures in exchange for a lesser promotion and a confidentiality agreement. "I need my lawyer to review this," I said. Graham's face changed instantly. The friendly mask dropped. "You need your lawyer? It's standard practice for any legal document." His face turned purple. "You're making a mistake. A huge mistake." I stood up. "I'll get back to you once I've had it reviewed." As I walked out, he called after me. "You'll regret this, Adrian." I knew the final confrontation was coming. I'd pushed them as far as they could go. Now they'd either break or fight back. But I had one more weapon they didn't know about. My grandfather summoned me to his office again. This time he had his lawyer present. "These are your appointment papers," Theodore said, sliding a legal document across his desk. "Chief Operations Officer of the Foundation, with ultimate authority over all subsidiary holdings, including Apex Dynamics." The appointment was dated 6 months ago, before my promotion meeting, before the sabotage. "This makes you Graham's boss. Technically, you've always been his boss." The lawyer, a sharp woman named Claudia, added, "The document is ironclad. We've structured the Foundation's ownership through enough layers that Graham won't even know who really owns Apex until you choose to reveal it." I held the document. Legal proof that I had the power to fire everyone who'd betrayed me. "Now," Theodore said, "let's prepare for war." Oliver and I spent the weekend compiling everything. The fabricated promotion dossier. The embezzlement scheme. Project Phoenix. Vera's testimony. The recorded conversations. We built 2 presentations. The first was my defense, proving the accusations against me were false. The second was my takeover, revealing the systematic fraud and my true authority. "This is going to destroy careers," Oliver said, looking at the files. "They tried to destroy mine first." "Are you sure you want to do this? Once you reveal who you are, everything changes. You can't go back to being just another employee." "I don't want to go back," I said. "I want justice." Sunday night, I looked at the 2 files on my desktop. Defense.pptx and takeover.pptx. Tomorrow I'll deploy both. And nothing would ever be the same. I needed one more element. Public pressure. On Sunday evening, I anonymously sent a carefully worded tip to Tech Industry Insider, a popular blog that covered corporate scandals. The email contained just enough information to be tantalizing. Embezzlement and fraud at Apex Dynamics. Financial documents suggest systematic theft by senior management. Full details forthcoming. By Monday morning, the blog had published a teaser article. Anonymous source alleges financial impropriety at tech firm. The article didn't name Apex specifically, but it contained enough details that anyone in the industry could connect the dots. Theodore called me. "Clever. The board will be watching Graham very carefully now." By 9 a.m., Graham had received a flood of concerned emails from board members. I watched him through his office window, his face growing redder with each message he read. His confidence was visibly shaken. The quarterly review was scheduled for 2 p.m. Perfect timing. I dressed carefully that morning. Not in my usual modest business casual, but in a sharp, tailored suit I'd been saving. Charcoal gray, perfectly fitted, with my grandmother's pearl necklace. Power attire. Oliver saw me and nodded approvingly. "You look like you own the place." "I do," I replied. "They just don't know it yet." The morning crawled by. Donovan and Beatrice avoided everyone. Graham stayed barricaded in his office. At 1:30, We began filing into the boardroom. The board members were already there, looking serious. Graham arrived last, straightening his tie nervously. I took a seat at the far end of the table. Graham looked at me and sneered. "Here to face the music, Adrian?" I said nothing. Just sat calmly, my laptop closed in front of me. Let him think he'd won. Let him be confident. Overconfidence made people stupid. The board chair called the meeting to order. "We're here to review recent performance issues in the operations division. Graham, you have the floor." Graham stood, and I watched him transform. The nervous man from the morning disappeared, replaced by a confident executive who'd practiced this presentation 100 times. "Thank you for your time. I want to address recent setbacks directly." He pulled up his own presentation. Carefully edited reports showing the Reynolds and Horizon losses. These accounts were mismanaged by a member of our team who has been underperforming for months. Adrian Henderson. He clicked to the next slide. My face, alongside fabricated performance metrics. Despite our attempts to help her improve through a performance improvement plan, Ms. Henderson has actively sabotaged client relationships. More slides. Doctored emails. False witness statements from Donovan and Beatrice. Her jealousy over being passed for promotion led to unprofessional behavior and ultimately damaged our client relationships. He concluded his performance with a grave expression. "Therefore, it is with regret that I must terminate Adrian Henderson, effective immediately." The board members murmured. Some looked at me sympathetically. Graham sat down satisfied. He'd sealed my fate. Or so he thought. I stood slowly. Every eye in the room turned to me. "Before you make any decisions," I said calmly, "I believe you should review the complete data." I opened my laptop and plugged it into the presentation system. The first slide appeared on the screen. The title read, "A Case of Systematic Fraud, Embezzlement and Defamation. The Truth About Apex Dynamics Operations Division." Graham's face went pale. "What is this? The truth?" I clicked to the next slide. "Let's begin with the promotion review that started this." Graham presented a dossier claiming I had stolen credit for others' work. I pulled up the original project files, complete with metadata. These are the unedited files showing my actual contributions. You'll note they differ significantly from Graham's version. The board chair leaned forward, studying the screen. I continued methodically. Showed the fake consulting invoices Donovan had approved. Displayed the bank statements showing money flowing to Graham's account. Pulled up Project Phoenix in its entirety. The plan to gut the company for personal profit. Here's a list of 27 employees Graham intended to fire. Many are in this building right now, working hard for a company whose CEO was planning to betray them. The room was absolutely silent. I saved the best for last. And finally, I have audio evidence of their conspiracy. I played the recordings. Donovan and Graham's deleted chat. "Once Adrian is gone, the division is ours to run." The conversation from Graham's office. "We need a scapegoat. Adrian." Graham trying to get me to sign the liability waiver. 20 minutes of systematic destruction. When it finished, the board chair's face was thunderous. "Graham, explain. Now." Graham sputtered. "This is..." "She's manipulated. This is taken out of context." "Which part?" I asked calmly. "The embezzlement or the plan to fire a quarter of your workforce for bonus money?" "You can't prove." "I have bank statements, witness testimony, and most importantly, I have the deleted files you thought were gone forever." The board chair stood. "Donovan Chen and Beatrice Chen, please leave the building immediately. Security will escort you." As they were let out, Beatrice shot me a look of pure hatred. Graham started to follow them. But I wasn't done with him yet. "Graham," I said, "you might want to stay. We're not finished." He turned back, confusion and fear warring on his face. The board chair nodded for me to continue. "There's one more thing. I need to explain how I obtained some of this information. Specifically, why I had access to administrative credentials and the Foundation's financial records." I pulled out the legal document Theodore had given me. "I'd like to introduce myself properly. I'm Adrian Vaughn, Chief Operations Officer of the Foundation. The foundation is the sole owner of Redwood Holdings, which owns 100% of Apex Dynamics. I slid copies of the document to each board member, which means effectively, I own this company. And I have since before Graham began his scheme. Graham's face went from pale to gray. That's impossible. It's documented, authenticated, and legally binding. I looked at the board. I was placed here anonymously by my family to learn the business from the ground up, to earn my position through merit rather than inheritance. I succeeded. And when Graham saw that success as a threat, he tried to destroy me. I turned back to Graham. You didn't just betray me. You betrayed every person in this company. You betrayed the board's trust. And most importantly, you betrayed the people who actually own Apex. The board chair found his voice. Graham Sterling, you're terminated immediately. For cause. Security. As Graham was escorted out, he turned to me one last time. His face was venomous. You think you've won? You have no idea what you've just started. This isn't over. The threat hung in the air even after he was gone. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt uneasy. That evening, Theodore called. His voice was grim. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Graham has been secretly negotiating with Titan Corporation. They're a competitor known for hostile takeovers and mass layoffs. My stomach dropped. How long has this been going on? At least 3 months. Graham has been positioning Apex as an acquisition target. He inflated the profit projections using the Project Phoenix numbers and offered them first right of purchase. But he was just fired. He can't. He already signed a preliminary agreement. The final negotiation is scheduled for this afternoon. If Titan closes the deal before we can block it, they'll own Apex. And they'll immediately lay off 70% of the workforce and sell off the intellectual property. I sat down hard. My revenge just became pointless. Worse than pointless. If Titan acquires Apex, your family loses a major asset and hundreds of people lose their jobs. Graham's final act of spite. I looked at the clock. 3 p.m. When's the final call? 5 o'clock. We have 2 hours to stop it. Claudia, Theodore's lawyer, was already working on a defense. We can file a poison pill provision. It prevents acquisition if triggered by specific conditions. What conditions? Someone on the board has to formally object to the sale and cite specific reasons it harms the company's interests. But they have to do it on record, in a board meeting with evidence. I understood immediately. We need Graham to admit he's selling the company. At an emergency board meeting. Yes. But he's been fired. He won't attend voluntarily. Theodore leaned forward. Unless he thinks he still has a chance to win. We need to bait him. How? Give him a reason to believe the acquisition is his way back into power. Make him think if he can complete the Titan deal, the board will have no choice but to reinstate him. It was risky, but we had no choice. We had 90 minutes to organize an emergency board meeting, get Graham to attend, and force him to confess his plans. Start calling board members, I said. I'll handle getting Graham there. I needed a double agent. Someone Graham trusted who would betray him to me. There was only one option. Beatrice. She'd been fired, her career destroyed. She was facing legal action for fraud. She had nothing to lose and everything to gain. I called her. We need to talk. We met in a parking garage. Beatrice looked haggard. What do you want? To gloat. To give you a chance at redemption. I showed her the documents about the Titan acquisition. Graham's selling the company. See this clause? It voids all executive bonuses. Severance packages. Everything. Her eyes widened. That includes the settlement he promised you for taking the fall on Reynolds. He promised me $50,000. He lied. If Titan closes this deal, you get nothing. He betrayed you too. I watched the realization hit her. The fury. What do you want from me? Come to the emergency board meeting this afternoon. When I give the signal, ask Graham about the Titan sale. Force him to admit it on record. Why would I help you? Because the alternative is Graham wins, you lose everything, and hundreds of people lose their jobs. Help me stop him, and I'll make sure you're not prosecuted for the Reynolds situation. Clean slate. She was quiet for a long moment. Fine. But I want it in writing. The emergency board meeting was called for 4:30 p.m. Graham showed up, suspicious but confident. He thought he was walking into a discussion about his termination. Maybe a chance to negotiate a severance package. Theodore had called him personally, hinted that the board might reconsider if Graham could resolve some outstanding business issues. Graham took the bait. The boardroom was tense. Graham sat across from me, his expression hostile. Beatrice sat in the corner, ostensibly there as a witness for the firing. The board chair called the meeting to order. We're here to discuss the transition of leadership and several urgent business matters. Graham leaned forward. Before we begin, I want to note that I've secured a potential strategic partnership that could be very beneficial for Apex. Oh, the board chair looked interested. With whom? Graham smiled. He thought he was taking control. Titan Corporation. They're interested in acquiring Apex. The terms are very favorable. My signal to Beatrice. She stood up, her voice shaking slightly. Graham, can you clarify the terms of this Titan deal? Specifically, does it involve the sale of Apex Dynamics? Graham, caught off guard by the question from his former ally, answered reflexively. Yes. Titan would acquire 100% of Apex. They've agreed to a purchase price of $200 million. The deal closes today at 5 if we agree to terms. And what happens to the employees? Beatrice pressed. That's Titan's concern. But there would be some restructuring. Consolidation. Standard acquisition protocol. How many employees would be terminated? Graham shrugged. Titan's plan calls for reducing headcount by 70%. But that's necessary for profitability. The board members gasped. I stood. And what about employee benefits? Severance packages. Those would be voided as part of the acquisition agreement. New ownership, new policies. He just confessed everything. On record. I nodded to Claudia, who stood at the back of the room. As Chief Operations Officer of the Foundation, majority owner of Apex Dynamics, I hereby formally object to this acquisition and activate our poison pill defense provisions. I pulled out the documents. This agreement was negotiated without owner approval. It violates fiduciary duty and would cause demonstrable harm to employees and the company's long-term interests. Per the corporate charter, I'm blocking the sale and terminating any agreements Graham Sterling made without authorization. I turned to Graham. You're fired. For cause. And Titan Corporation will be notified immediately that the sale is null and void. Graham's face went white, then red, then white again. You can't. I can. I just did. Security, please escort Mr. Sterling from the premises. Permanently. As Graham was let out for the second time that day, he didn't make threats. He just stared at me with hollow eyes. He'd lost everything. And he knew it. The next morning, I stood in front of the entire Apex Dynamics workforce. Someone had set up a camera to live stream to remote employees. I'd spent the night preparing my speech. Thank you all for being here. I know the past 24 hours have been chaotic. Let me explain what's happening. I outlined everything. Graham's embezzlement. Project Phoenix. The attempted sale to Titan. 27 of your colleagues were targeted for termination. Their names were on a list slated for firing to inflate short-term profits. I displayed the list on the screen behind me. Graham Sterling, Donovan Chen, and Beatrice Chen have been terminated for fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. Legal action is ongoing. Then I explained who I really was. I'm Adrian Vaughn. My family owns the foundation, which owns Apex Dynamics. I was placed here to learn the business from the ground up. And I learned something important. This company's greatest asset is its people. I outlined my vision, reversing the benefit cuts Graham had made, promoting based on merit, protecting the employees he'd targeted, and most importantly, anyone who participated in unethical practices under Graham's pressure, like our friend Vera in accounting, will face no consequences if they come forward. You were coerced. That's not your fault. I paused, looking into the camera. To anyone watching this who thinks they can push people down to climb higher, remember this story. You might be sabotaging the person who secretly signs your paychecks. 6 months later, Apex was thriving. Revenue was up 20%. Employee satisfaction scores had doubled. We'd promoted 15 people based on merit, including Oliver to director of IT. I was in my new office, Graham's old office, completely redecorated, when Oliver knocked. "You've got a visitor." Theodore walked in. He looked proud. "I hear you've turned this place around." We all did. It wasn't just me. That's the mark of a good leader, recognizing the team. He sat across from my desk. "The board wants to make your position permanent. CEO of Apex Dynamics, not just interim operations officer." "What about the foundation?" "You'll do both. You've earned it." I thought about the journey. The sabotage, the betrayal, the reveal. "You tested me," I said. "You put me in that position knowing it would be hard. I put you there to see if you could handle adversity. You didn't just handle it. You conquered it." He stood to leave, then paused. "Your grandmother would be proud. She believed in earning your place. You did that." After he left, I looked out the window at the Apex campus. Employees walking between buildings. People whose jobs I'd saved. I'd started as an anonymous employee being sabotaged by mediocre managers. Now I was the CEO who'd turned the company around. The best revenge wasn't destroying them. It was succeeding despite them. 1 year after the confrontation, I was profiled in Business Insider. The headline read, "The CEO who saved her own company while undercover." The article detailed the full story. How I'd been placed at Apex anonymously. How Graham had sabotaged my promotion. How I'd systematically gathered evidence and revealed my identity at the perfect moment. The reporter asked me the question everyone wanted answered. "Do you think your coworkers would have treated you differently if they'd known who you were?" I smiled. "Absolutely. And that's exactly why they didn't know. I wanted to succeed on merit, not name recognition. The sabotage proved I was doing that." What would you say to other people facing workplace sabotage? I thought carefully. Document everything. Build your case. And remember that people who need to tear others down are usually insecure about their own abilities. Their cruelty is a confession of weakness. The article went viral. I received hundreds of messages from people sharing their own stories of workplace betrayal. Theodore called me after reading it. "You've become a voice for people who feel powerless." I had power all along. I just didn't know it. No. You earned that power by how you handled the situation. The ownership gave you authority, but your actions gave you respect. I looked at the Apex campus from my office window. We'd just announced record profits and a new employee profit-sharing program. "Do you regret the test?" Theodore asked. "No. It taught me who I am, and showed me who I never want to become." That night, I wrote in my journal. One sentence to summarize everything. They thought they were crushing me. Instead, they forged me into steel. And that was the truth. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe for more.